This is Gemara in Shavuos Daf Yod, and we're holding on Tes Amid Beis. All the learning should be an incredible schos refuah shlema for Tinok Miriam Ahuva B'Seich Shahar Chayle Yisrael. So we're in the middle of discussing the Siyar of Rosh Chodesh. That's how we started the discussion. As the Mishnah taught us that the Siyar of Rosh Chodesh and the Siyar of Regalim provide unique kapara. Within that discussion, we brought down the tzitz. We're now going into Shitas Rav Ashi. 7 lines from the bottom. Rav Ashi Amar comes along Rav Ashi, and he explains the Siyar of Rosh Chodesh and the tzitz and their level of kapara. Regarding the Siyar of Rosh Chodesh, it says it provides kapara for the avoin, the avira of the Ida, which means of the Ida, but not of Kach. V'hasam ksiv, regarding the tzitz, it says, avoin kachim, v'lo Ida. So says Rav Ashi, each has their own unique function. The Siyar of Rosh Chodesh is for Klal Yisrael, not Kachim. The tzitz is Kachim, and not the Ida. Asks the Gemara, Ashchen Siyar Rosh Chodashim, we found the Siyar of Rosh Chodesh that is mechaper for a tar that eats something tamei. Siyar Regalim the mechaper al shein b'yediyah lo b'tchivla b'sav min halon. So where do we know that the Siyar of Regalim provides kapara when one does not know neither beginning nor basoif? Says the Gemara. Kintani Rav Chama, Rav Chanina. Seir useir, hachanami. Seir useir, ve'izkish, and we are makish what? Seir Regalim, and this of course is the reverse drasha than we had on the beginning of Daf Tes. Ve'izkish Seir Regalim l'Siyar Rosh Chodashim backwards. Maser the Rosh Chodesh milsa de kodesh mechapri. After Regalim milsa de kodesh mechapri, and therefore that's how we know the kapara that the Siyar of Yantiv provides. Ask the Gemara. Now maybe you're going to tell me maybe you're going to tell me that the Siyar of Regalim should give a kapara for the Siyar of Rosh Chodesh, which is the same thing as the Siyar of Rosh Chodesh, which is what? If someone is tahar who eats something tamei, ha'amrinan oisa. Oisa noise avain, vein acher noise avain. Only Oisa, which is referring to the Siyar of Rosh Chodesh, only that is noise avain, and not something else. Says the Gemara, v'chit eman, if you're going to tell me, nechabri adiyam akipurim, maybe you're going to tell me the Siyar of Regalim should have the same kapara of Yom Kippur. Ha'amrinan achas b'shana kapara zu by the Siyar of Yom Kippur. Lo telachs b'shana. So says the Gemara. So amai mechapri. So now we're stuck and we're saying the Siyar of Regalim we're suggesting based on the hekish it's mechaper on mashu kodesh. Says the Gemara, amai mechabri. What is there that the Siyar of Regalim is mechaber for? This is a nice chazara. If you're going to tell me it's for something that we have a yediyah, b'tzchila, and b'asayif, but of course we know that can't be. Habar karbanu. We know such a person brings a carbon. What carbon? That was the first halacha we learned in the Masechta. That what? You have idea in the beginning, and now, and yes, if you bring the Siyar, that varies. The Siyar, the carbon, oil yari, that depends on the person's wealth. Iyal sheyeshu b'tchila. Ve'ein ba'idiyah b'sayif, that as well. Hasir nasa b'fnim, v'yayim ha'kipurim taila. Iyal she'ein ba'idiyah b'tchila. Aval yeshu idiyah b'sayif. Then what? Hi Siyar nase b'chos yivchipur mekaper. So says the Gemara, what is the entity of kodesh that the Siyar of Regalim is mechaber? And therefore concludes the Gemara al karchach in a mechaber ela al she'ein b'yediyah loy b'tchila loy b'soif, a process of elimination, and that's going to be based on the hekesh of Sirah Gon Sirah Chadashim. The milsa de kodesh is going to be when there's no yediyah, neither b'tchila nor b'soif. Rabbi Meir Oimer Kol Asirim Kabaras and Shava. We quote Shitas Rabbi Meir in the Mishnah that all Seirim are equal. They give kapara when someone has a level of Tumah B'Kodesh or Kachim. Amar Rav Chanan Bar Chanina, my time there, Meir, where does Rav Meir come from? Amar Kra Seir Useir. Hakshu Kol Asirim Zelazeh. Vav Moisev Alinin Rishon. The extra Seir Useir. The Vav comes to add on. That is all going to be the same. Kol Asirim are Hukash Zeh Lozeh. Says the Gemara, Kasal Gadaitach. We think, what does Rav Chama mean? Kol Chad v'Chad michavrei Gomar. Each one learned from the one next it. Vam Rav Yechon Kol Atar Kula Lameidim Lamad Mi Lamad. At all of Torah we derive one from the next. Chotz mi Kachim. Shem Ameidim Lamad Mi Lamad. Says the Gemara. You're telling me the Vav is Maisiv, Seir Useir, learn one from the next. But Rav Yochanan tells us that in Kachim we don't do that. Answers the Gemara, Lekasha, Kulu Mikama, Kamri. Says the Gemara, you know what Rav Chama means? Now one is learned from the next, but rather they're all learned back from the first one. Everything goes back to the beginning. Everything goes back to the Seir verse Chodesh. Asks the Gemara, Teina Kol Tekizvei Useir. So everything that has that extra vav I understand, but at Tzeres Yom Kippur Kol Tekizvei Useir Minalon. El Amar Rabbi Yoina Amar Kra Eile Sasu L'Hashem B'Madeichem Hekshu Kol Hamayadim Zela Zeh. It's the hekesh of Kol Hamayadim. That's what we're going to know one from the next. Ask the Gemara, and of course some of these two dots are, I don't want to say the wrong place, but really we're in the middle of a sugya. Says the Gemara, wait, Rosh Chodesh is not Mayidu. Rosh Chodesh is not a Mayid. Answers the Gemara, perhaps a Chiddush for what we know. Ibra, no, in truth, Rosh Chodesh Nami Ikri Mayid. Says the Gemara, it's not true. The Rosh Chodesh is as well considered a Mayid. Kedamar Abaye, teaches Abaye, Damar Abaye. Tammuz da Yishaita Maluya Maluya. The year, a certain year, Bezimi Tammuz, a full month of 30 days. Tersev Karai Alai Moyed. Calling it a Moyed Lishbar Bachurai, to crush my young man. So she teaches the Gemara, a pasuk in Eicha, that indeed Rosh Chodesh is called a Moyed as well. Omar Rabbi Yochanan, going a little deeper in Rameir, a Moyed Rameir. B'sir nasib ifnim she'ina mechaber kabarasan, v'heina mechaberin kabarasan. Rameir is Maida that the seer of Yom Kippur, it's nasib ifnim, einai mechaber kabarasan, does not give a kabara of the karban musaf, v'hein, and the karban musaf in mechaber kabarasan. Oh, eina mechaber kabarasan, why? Kabarachas mechaber, v'hein mechaber shtei kabaras, just one, not two. Hey, in the carbon of Musaf in Mechaber Kabarasan, Amar Krachas B'Shana. Kabara Zu, the Kabara of Yom Kippur Loteh, in the first white line, Ela Achas B'Shana, and proves this din of Rabbi Yochanan Tanami Achal Shein B'Yediyah Lo B'Tchiv Lo B'Sayif, V'al Shein B'Yediyah B'Tchiv Lo B'Yesh B'Yediyah B'Sayif, V'al Tor Shachal Es Atomei, Sira Golim, Usir Rosh Chadashim, Usir Naseh B'Achotz, and that's the actual Chiddush that the Naseh B'Achotz is lumped together with the Regalim Rosh Chodesh B'Chavrin Divi Rameir. That's the shita, like we just explained. The Sir Nas B'Fnim Sheyara V'Chaparasan Nami Sharad Yara. The Sir that's Nasa B'Fnim Shayara is left out, as well as its Kapara. But we see a Raya to Rabbi Meir. We continue 5 lines into the white lines. Shemin Mercy Rosh Chodesh B'Chavrin Altar Shachal Es Atamei. Ask the Gemara, Bishlam the Rosh Chodesh, the Rosh Chadashim, Loi Mechapri Adaragolim. I understand the Rosh Chodesh is not Mechaper for Regalim. Why? The Amar Kra Avoy, says the Torah in the singular sin with regards to Rosh Chodesh. Avoin echadu noisei, even a noisei shein avoinis. But I asked the Gemara, Eladur Golim this year of Ramtin, the Chapriyad Rosh Chodashim. Answers the Gemara, no, you know why? Because in different singular, Amar Kro, Isa noisei avoin, vein acher noisei avoin. Flips it around and says Gemara the other way. Bishop the Regal Chaber Ladim Kippur and Damakachas Bishana by Yom Kippur. Kapar Zuloti Alachs Bishana. El Yom Kippur in the Chabriad the Regalim. Answers the Gemara Amar Kra Achas. Kapar Achas B'Chaber V'Nam Chaber Shtei Kaparis. Asks the Gemara in the last line, V'Kiksiv Achas B'Sir Nasa B'Fnim U'Dichsiv. But with our Achas is by the Sir Nasa B'Fnim. And we're talking about Sir Nasa B'Chutz. Answers the Gemara, you're right. But the Sir Nasa B'Chutz, Amar Kra Milvad. As we turn over to Yudam and Beis, Chatas HaKippurim V'Itzkesh Chitzon L'Penimin. And we have a hekesh of one to the other, that you are correct. The pasuk is referring to the penimi, but we can be makish, we can equate Baif and hekesh one to the next. Continues the Gemara on the top of Yudam and Beis, quoting the next part of the Mishnah, Rav Shimon Yehuda Aimer Mishmai. The Sir of Rosh Chodesh is a kabar of someone who's tar, who eats kachin that was tummy. Asks the Gemara, I don't understand. My Shina, what is the reason? Rosh Chodesh, Rav Shimon ben Yehuda's machalik has a differentiation between the Sir of Rosh Chodesh and the Sir of Regalim. So ask the Gemara why. My Shina the Rosh Chodesh im lo mechaber ad Regalim the marka avoin. Singular. Avoin echadu noisein noisein shtei avoinis. But I asked the Gemara, Nami mechaber ad Rosh Chodesh im lo the marka isa. Isa noisei avoin v'nacher noisei avoin. Answers the Gemara, Isa loy mashmalei. He doesn't hold of that mashmais. Maishna diragalim lo mechaber ad Yom Kippurim. Says the Gemara, Damar Kra, we should hopefully be familiar with these Joshas already. Achaz b'shana, kabar azul lo tielachz b'shana. Ask the Gemara, Iachi, Yom Kippurim nami, lo nechaber ad Regalim. Achaz ksiv, kabar achaz v'chaber nechaber shtei kabaros. And now, on the other flip side, Achaz lo mashmalei. So we have a machlekes, which of the drashais, which are the ones, is Isa lo mashmalei, it was Achaz lo mashmalei. Says the Gemara, Amai, why is it that Rav Shimon Yehuda holds that Achaz doesn't have this mashmais? Explains the Gemara, Diksiv Achaz b'sir nas b'fnim ksiv. It's because, when does the Torah say Dechi ksiv Achaz is by sir nas b'fnim? Not the sir nas b'chutz. Correct the Gemara, but Yachi the Regalim nami. The Chaber ad Yom Kippurim, the Ksiv Achas, like b'sir nas b'fnim ksiv. Answers the Gemara, you're right. Lo ilam Achas is mashmali. B'shayni achad amar kra v'chibar Aaron al karnoisav Achas b'shana. Chibar Aaron al karnoisav Achas b'shana. And we darshin karnoisav the mizbeach hapenimi udikabar Achas mechaber. But Davka the Penimi, says the Gemara, even two kaparis. And that finishes the equation, the comparing and contrasting between the Sir Nasa B'Fnim, Sir Nasa B'Chutz, the Sir of Regalim versus the Sir of Rosh Chodesh. Continues the Gemara, Amar Ula Amar Rav Yechlan, a new topic. Timidin. A carbon damage tzibor that's not needed by the tzibor. Niftin tamimin can be redeemed, even tamimin. Usually, you can only be paid to something if it has a balmum. Says Ulam Rav Yechlan HaChedesh that if it's a seer, a tamid, that the tzibor doesn't need, you could indeed be paid it. Yosef Rabba v'kamlo l'shemaitza. Amle Rav Chisda man sayis l'cha. Says Rav Chisda, who's going to listen to you about this halacha? How could it be? It's a tamid. It's a tamim. There's no mum. How could it be? Where does the kedusha go? Amar le, Rabbi responds, Atlo tizvran. Do you not also hold Amrina on kedusha behen? Lechan holcha. Do you not hold the same problem? Votanan. Meiser HaKetayres, what they do with excess Ketayres? Ma'afrishimenu. They would separate from it schar umanim, the schar of the umnin. Umachalin oisa amoisa umnin, they would transfer the kedusha. V'noisa sal umnin, they give it to the umnin b'schar and as their wages. Chaziv leichos hamitzuma chadasha, and they go back and they take it for the new truma. But says the Gemara, the same kasha by my name of kedusha ben nechanalcha. Where does the kedusha go? So what do we see? We see the same thing, that you could redeem the ketayres. So to by us. So Amar Leir of Chizr responds to Rabba, Ketayres Ka'amrit. Shiny Ketayres. Ketayres is different than the Tamid. Why? The Kedushas Damim Ninu. Ketayres is unique, that it's Kedusha in the value, whereas the Tamid is not. We'll pick it up from here, B'siyata Dishmaya.